If you keep up with infantry fighting vehicles, as most well-adjusted and interesting people do, you have heard of the Hanno Redback because it just keeps showing up in defense news. It beat out Ryan Matl's Lynx in Australia, which is not nothing. And it has a pretty serious gun, anti-tank missiles, active protection systems, a heavy survivability pitch, and just enough futuristic language around digital architecture and sensors to get procurement people excited. So today we are talking about what weapons and systems make the Redback a contender in the IFV market, what it says about the status of armor in modern militaries, and who besides Australia is considering it. Redback matters for two reasons. First, it gives us a really interesting look at what modern export IFV is supposed to be in an era where drones hunt armor all day. And second, it shows how brutal the global IFV market has become. First, we need to talk about Hanwha, the company, a bit. Now, we have a whole entire video on the rise of the South Korean defense industry, and we do talk more about them there, so we will be brief here and you should feel free to watch that. Hanwha Group is a South Korean conglomerate like GE is, or at least was here in the United States. They operate a labyrinth of dozens of separate businesses and affiliates operating in everything from financial technology to petrochemicals. For defense, they mostly focus their efforts through three companies. Hanwha Ocean, which makes ships and things like that. Hanwha Systems, which takes care of satellites, radars, etc. and Hanwha Aerospace, where they make weapons like the K-9 thunder-propelled artillery, the Kamu multiple launch rocket system, and you guessed it, the Redback, or as it's also known, the AS-21. The easiest way to think about the Redback, or the AS-21, is that it is a heavier, more survivable, export-focused descendant of the South Korean K-21. The K-21 was designed around South Korea's own needs. The Redback, or AS-21, was built to win foreign competitions and specifically to meet Australia's Land 400 Phase 3 requirements for a new tracked IFB, to replace the old Mike 113s which they've had in service since the 1960s. An IFV is supposed to move infantry to the fight under armor, then fight alongside them once they dismount and help hold that ground until the slower, heavier stuff can reach them. That is different from a simpler armored personnel carrier. An APC just gets troops to the fight, whereas an IFV sticks around and mixes it up with them. The Redback was built around that job description, but with more emphasis than usual on survivability, crew endurance, and growth potential. IFVs are no longer just steel boxes with guns. They are turning into mobile sensor ecosystems with open architecture electronics, advanced sights, and active protection systems. They're sometimes expected to also handle enemy tanks and be light enough to be moved by cargo aircraft and smaller boats. The Redback has a crew of 3, a driver, a gunner, and a commander, and it carries up to 8 dismounts. In its Australian form, it weighs a little over 40 tons. Fun fact, it's named for the redback spider found in Australia where, like its North American cousin, the black widow, its venom causes nausea, severe pain, excessive sweating, and in some cases when antivenom is not available, death. I'm sorry I didn't do that in a Steve Irwin voice. May he rest in peace. But my Australian accent is not great, and that would honestly be an insult to his legacy. Has she got a set of fangs on her or what? So maybe I'll do one take with my Australian accent and we'll put it in at the end, but maybe not. You'll just have to stick around for it. And yeah, that's a shameless plug to get you to watch the whole video. Anyway, this is not a light swim across the river type of vehicle. This is built for a battlefield where being spotted is almost guaranteed and usually means that after you're spotted, something is going to try to kill you with artillery, an anti-tank missile, or a drone. 4. Mobility, which is a very important aspect of survivability. The Redback uses a 100 horsepower MTU power pack paired with an Allison X1100 cross-drive transmission. Publicly quoted performance figures put it around 65 km per hour on roads with a range of roughly 525 km. That is respectable, but the more interesting part is how Hanwha talks about mobility. The company has pushed hard on the Redback's in-arm suspension and composite rubber tracks. Rubber tracks help reduce vibration and noise, and the suspension frees up internal space compared with a more traditional torsion bar setup. Hanwha's pitch is that crews and dismounts arrive less smoked, electronics take less punishment, and the internal layout is better suited to survive blasts. A lot of armor discussion gets weirdly obsessed with who wins the spreadsheet race as far as speed and horsepower per ton when one of the bigger battlefield questions, especially